Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, so have you ever caught yourself just waiting? Waiting for the perfect moment to start improving your life? Maybe you're holding out for a sudden burst of motivation, or waiting until you have a bit more money in the bank, or even just waiting for someone to finally tell you they believe in you? Look, we've all been there, right? It's a completely universal trap. But today, we're unpacking a source that outlines a really powerful set of concepts, and I'm telling you, this is going to completely shift how you look at your own potential. So, let me ask you, who is coming to save you? I know, it sounds incredibly harsh, maybe even a little uncomfortable to hear, but we've got to face this empowering truth right out of the gate. No one is coming. No one's going to wake you up early, no one's going to build your future for you, and no one is coming to fight your battles. But here's the beautiful part. The exact moment you accept that responsibility, that's literally the moment your life actually begins.
Just picture a person standing at the edge of a road. They want to get to the other side. They want the success, the confidence, a better life. But instead of walking, they just stand there, waiting, hoping someone will carry them or give them a push. And years pass, and they're still in the exact same spot. Not because they didn't have the potential, but simply because they chose waiting over moving.
All right, let's dive right into our first key concept, the power of responsibility, moving from blame to growth.
Now, taking responsibility is honestly tough. Why? Because blaming bad luck or our circumstances temporarily protects our ego, right? It lets us pretend our problems are totally out of our control. But to see how blame just strips away your personal power, let's look at two students who both just failed an English exam. Student 1 says, "The exam was unfair. The teacher was terrible." Now, even if that's absolutely true, what happens next? Nothing. They learn nothing. But student 2 says, "You know what? I need to practice my listening and figure out a better study plan." This perfectly illustrates the two mindsets. Focusing on responsibility yields an actual solution, whereas focusing on blame yields absolutely nothing.
Let's actually break this down across a few different areas of life. Whether we're talking about learning English, getting in shape, or managing your money, simply wishing for it doesn't do a thing. A waiting mindset hopes that fluency, fitness, and wealth are just going to magically appear. But an action mindset, that takes daily responsibility. It's practicing every day, choosing healthier habits, making better financial choices. Shifting from that waiting mindset to the action mindset is exactly how real results happen.
Think of it this way. You cannot control the storm, but you can control the direction of the ship. Imagine you're the captain of a ship. You obviously can't control the rough waves or the crazy winds. Setbacks and unfair things are absolutely going to happen in life, but you always have control over the direction of the ship. You control your attitude, your effort, and your response. And having that control, that is what gives you ultimate freedom. Which brings us to our second concept, the myth of getting ready. Choosing action over perfection. This is huge. One of the most dangerous habits we all fall into is delaying our dreams because we're waiting for the perfect time. We tell ourselves we'll start when we're a bit more confident or when we feel completely ready. We literally say things to ourselves like, "I'll get into the water when I know how to swim," which sounds totally ridiculous when you say it out loud, right? You can't learn to swim without getting wet. But this is exactly what we do with our lives. We want the experience and the confidence before we take the action, but readiness always comes after you jump in, not before. And that flips our usual thinking completely upside down. Action creates readiness. Most of us think confidence has to come first, but successful people know a little secret. Confidence and skill are actually the byproducts of moving forward. Even when you make mistakes, and yeah, even when you're absolutely terrified. Just think about the number 5 for a second. Imagine two people who have the exact same dream. Person A spends 5 years planning, researching, waiting for conditions to be perfect. And at the end of it, all they have are ideas. Person B spends those 5 years doing. They start messy, sure, but they take action. After 5 years, the planner just has some notes on paper, while the doer has real, tangible experience and actual results. Execution is what changes lives. So, here's the progression you have to be willing to go through. Step 1, you start messy. Step 2, naturally you're going to make mistakes. But step 3, those mistakes give you real-world experience. And finally, step 4, that experience is what actually builds your confidence. Is it uncomfortable? Oh, for sure. But every single confident expert you admire today was once a nervous, inexperienced beginner who just decided to take that first messy step. All right, let's move on to concept 3, building in the rain, finding growth during difficulties. When life gets really hard, the default for most people is to complain, but highly successful people, they use those exact same difficult times to build themselves up.
Picture two people caught outside in the freezing, pouring rain. The first person spends hours just complaining about how wet and cold they are. The second person uses that exact same time and energy to build a shelter. At the end of the day, both experienced the exact same storm, but only one of them created a solution. Challenges affect everyone equally, but your response to them is what determines your future.
The source material drops a really profound takeaway here. Life often becomes easier because people improve. We are constantly wishing for life to just get easier, but the real secret is that as you build your skills, your discipline, and your knowledge, your capacity to handle problems naturally expands. You don't actually need fewer problems, you just need to become more capable.
That leads us right into Concept 4, turning pain into power, the ultimate fuel.
Look, problems and pain are just inevitable parts of life. Nobody escapes them. But instead of using pain as an excuse to throw in the towel, what if you used it as fuel to grow? Think of it like a tree facing a massive storm. A tree doesn't just stop growing because the weather is bad. In fact, strong winds physically force the tree to develop stronger, deeper roots to survive. And human resilience works the exact same way. If you use difficulties correctly, the very things that try to break you are actually what give you a much stronger foundation.
When you make that mindset shift, pain becomes a teacher. It teaches resilience, patience, perseverance, and true strength, things that comfort literally cannot teach you. The whole trick is shifting your brain from asking, why is this happening to me, to asking, okay, what can this teach me? How can this make me stronger?
And finally, we have Concept 5, save yourself to inspire others, the ripple effect.
Sometimes people hear a phrase like save yourself and immediately think it sounds a bit selfish, but becoming strong enough to stand on your own 2 feet is actually the absolute foundation of true leadership and generosity. Think about the safety instructions on an airplane. Put your own oxygen mask on first. That's not selfish, it's deeply practical. If you're suffocating, you can't help the person next to you. If you refuse to grow, refuse to learn, and refuse to build your own strength, your ability to actually help your family and your community is going to be severely limited.
Because true leadership isn't about giving grand speeches, it's about action. Once you take responsibility, step 1, and keep moving forward daily, step 2, you naturally achieve step 3, becoming the example. Your personal transformation becomes visible, living proof to your friends and family that change is actually possible. You give them hope simply by refusing to quit.
So I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. Are you waiting for a hero, or will you become one? Your future is entirely in your hands. It's time to stop waiting for those perfect conditions, stop looking for someone else to carry the load, and start taking extreme ownership of your life right now. Start exactly where you are. Use what you have and just get moving. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.